Hello, this is Spellsquires MTG, and today I've got another archetype guide for you. In this episode, we'll be looking at wheels. So, what are wheels? A wheel is discarding or drawing away your hand, and then drawing them back again. An example of this is something like Windfall, Wheel of Fortune. That's quite expensive now because it's on the reserve list. What benefits can we get from drawing and discarding? So, that's what a wheel deck often looks at, is making your opponents or yourself draw and discard. And if we wheel out everyone, what benefits can we get from them? So what colours are these in? It's all colours. Any single colour works well in a wheel deck. But red or blue often contain the wheels. So, and the other colours often have lots of support cards. So what are the first 5 best commanders in my opinion? So there's a Locust God. This reads 4 a blue and a red, 4/4 flying. God, when it would die, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of your next end step. And then whenever you draw a card, create 1/1 locust. So with this we can wheel, because it benefits from us drawing, but then we can also have token synergies like Skull Clamp, Breath of Fury, Reconnaissance Mission, and we can just cycle through our deck really, really quickly to find more wheels with things like Reconnaissance Mission, because we swing with locusts, deal 5, draw 5, make 5 more, and then we just build up a bigger army. And then you can have things like Shared Animosity to pump up your locusts and win the game. Next up is Yidris of the Writhing Storm. This is a 5-mana 3/5 in Teamer colours. It's got flying, and when it deals damage to an opponent, you and that opponent each draw that many cards, and then whenever an opponent draws a card, you make a 1/1 snake. So this again benefits from your opponent's wheeling, so you're going to want things like Molten Psyche, Incendiary Command to make everyone wheel, and you're going to want token synergies added on with that as well. Things like Skull Clamp, Shared Animosity, like I said before. It's quite similar to Locust God, but it cares more about your opponent's drawing than you. Yidris can be more powerful because you make more snakes, but Locust God, the tokens have haste, so it's a bit of either way. And also the tokens don't have flying either, or you can give them flying. But that's another route to go. Next up we have Nekusar. This benefits from your opponent's drawing. So it reads, whenever an opponent draws a card, they take a damage and then they draw an additional card. Each player draws an additional card to an upkeep. So you basically wheel over and over again and make your opponents take a ton of damage from that. And you can often have a lot of punishments for them discarding cards and drawing cards in the process. Like Liliana's Caress, that deals 2 damage when they discard a card. And obviously Nekusar damages them. Obnixilus, the Hate Twisted, that damages them as well. Next up we have Yidris. This is a very underrated wheel commander. This is my current wheel commander. I used to have Locust God, but now I have Yidris. This one you wheel and generate value by cascading off those wheels. So you'll often wheel, find a wheel benefit, and then you get the wheel benefit, and then you wheel after that. And you basically, what you do is you get so much value that your opponents can't really catch up. And the wheels are just a way to facilitate that, because often you'll play your best cards in your hand and you'll run out of good cards, but then when you wheel, you can recycle your hand and get more. And finally, I have Niv-Mizzet Parun. This one you cast wheels and draw additional cards for casting instant or sorceries. So this one you draw an extra card, you wheel for 1 extra usually. This one, you can go a lot of routes with Niv-Mizzet, but wheel is definitely one of them. So next up, what are the best wheels? So these are a couple of the best wheels. So Windfall, Commit to Memory, Whispering Madness, Jace's Archivist, to name a few. Another couple of Reforged the Soul, Magus of the Wheel, and Whirlpool Warrior. So how many wheels do you want in a wheel deck? I always say 10 to 15, so that when you draw 7 cards, you're 100% going to draw another wheel. You're going to want around 13 wheels, I'd say 15, because you want a couple extra, so you can pick and choose which wheel is the best to cast for each time. Because if you start off with 93 cards in your library, which is what you draw at the start of the game, you're going to use 13 wheels to draw one all the time. So what are the best benefits from us drawing? As I mentioned before, Locust God, both Niv-Mizzets, not Draco Genius, Defy Mind, and Parun. Psychosis Crawler makes our opponents lose life when we draw cards, and then Chasm Skulker gets counters when we draw cards, and when it dies, you make a load of squid tokens. This is a bit less relevant from you discarding because you really want to make your opponents discard. Glinthorn Buccaneer, that deals damage whenever you discard a card. Bone Miser gets you value from you discarding. Bralin, Sky Shock, Rider, that deals more damage when you discard as well. And then these are benefits from your opponents drawing and discarding. We've got Nekusar, that damages them, like I said earlier. Waste Not, it's like a Bone Miser, but for your opponents instead. So you draw cards, make black mana, make zombies, and so on. I'll put the card on the screen so you can see what it says. Yidris, as I said before. Leonardo's Caress, that makes them lose 2 life whenever they discard a card. Megrim, that costs 1 more, but it also makes them lose 2. And then Smothering Tithe, and get a load of treasures. So what are the mean cards we can include in a wheel deck? Things like Smothering Tithe, like I said before, makes treasures when they draw cards, and if they don't pay, we get treasure. Narset Parcher Veils, this just stops them from drawing, so you can wheel, leave them on 1 card. Hull Breacher also does a similar effect, but that makes treasures instead. I think that's a bit too mean in my opinion. Things like Notion Thief, that makes us draw the cards instead. So if we wheel, we're going to draw 28 cards in a 4-player game, and our opponent's not going to have anything, meaning we can probably win with those cards. So what extra synergy can you have in a wheel deck? Bounce spells, because if you bounce your opponent's creatures to their hands, if you wheel them away, they're not going to be able to replay them, so it's just effective as a removal spell, but they're cheaper, often bounce spells. Pros of a wheel deck, they're quite hard to disrupt because you've got so many pieces and moving parts, but those moving parts are so easy to assemble, that doesn't really matter, so they're hard to act with. They disrupt tutors. If someone tutors and puts a card into their hand, we can wheel that card away if they're not going to use it immediately. They're quite fast as well. You can get off the ground quickly. Often with a wheel deck, you'll cast 1 wheel and often do damage, make tokens, etc. They're very high power level as well because they're fast and they've got a lot of synergy. They generate a lot of card advantage from doing what they want to do. Like a Lands Matter deck, by ramping, you generate value. This one, you draw cards and get extra value from that. So what are the cons of a wheel deck? If someone removes a wheel benefit and you don't have another one, that's quite a large weakness, as you have no reason to play wheel. So an opponent playing something like a Narset or Notion Thief also mucks us up, and also Hull Breacher especially. So how are we going to win with a wheel deck? So when we draw cards or discard and so on, we're going to make benefits to make them lose life and draw cards. Another idea is drawing your library. So something like Lab Maniac, Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, Thassa's Oracle. As often you're cycling a lot of cards through your deck. I've had times when I've had very little cards in my library, so I've had to shuffle it in often. But if you don't include those shuffle effects, then you can often win through a card like I just mentioned. Another thing are combos. Things like Locust God, Skull Clamp and Ashnod's Altar. This one, when we clamp a Locust, it will die and we'll make 2 more. And then we can sacrifice it to an additional one to Ashnod's Altar, so you can activate the Skull Clamp, so you get infinite mana and we get to draw a whole deck as well. Sage of the Falls also just goes infinite with Locust God. Niv Mizzet, of course, goes infinite with Curiosity, Tandem Lookout, and Ophidian Eye, where we ping our opponents to death. Another thing is often tokens. Locust God makes a lot of tokens. Yidris makes a lot of tokens. We can attack with those tokens and win. Or we can just survive for long enough to kill them with our commander if we're playing Yidris or something. So a must-need for a wheel deck is recursion, because you're getting rid of your hand so often. Things like Eternal Witness, Flood of Recollection, Dread Return in a black deck maybe, are so important because you may want to play a card out your graveyard again. Also Spell Twine to get back instant or sorceries and cast them. They're so important because you're going to be filling up your graveyard a lot, and you want a way to use those cards again. So recursion spell, basically, because you have a lot of cards in your graveyard, it acts more like a tutor. So you can go through your graveyard, pick out an extra turn spell or something you've discarded, and then recast it. So I think that'll be all for today. I will probably put a deck list, my Yidris deck, and probably my Locust God deck. And also, I'll link the EDHRec page for wheels if you want to look for extra cards to add to your wheel deck. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed, like the video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.